Man Cave Sports back after a hiatus. A lot of stuff going on with the men of the Man Cave, but we are here after the holidays to talk about and recap the first half of the Minnesota Timberwolves 2025-2026 season. Timberwolves currently sitting at 27 and 17. Unfortunately, due to last night's loss, that dropped them from the fourth seed to the seventh seed, but there's still plenty of season left. And I think we would all agree a top six seed, no play in, is a desired goal, regardless whether you show up at 2 to 6, because who's going to unseat OKC? However, we'll get started talking about what is going on with the Wolves through the first half. Razor, good to see you.
Likewise. Been a while.
Anthony Edwards, one of our criticisms last year during our weeklies was his clutch play, and it was horrendous if you look at it historically through the first few years of his career. He has become the most clutch player in the league by far, based on his play this year. Let's talk about Ant's ascension, his maturity, and what he's doing at the end of these games here.
Well, just real quick, I wanted to just get into his basic stats. I mean, they're all up. I mean, he's on the verge of averaging 30 points a game overall. Shooting percentage is at 49.9%. Three-point percentage is 41.3 at the moment. These are all career highs. So, I mean, he's ascended overall. But as you mentioned, the maturity, the clutch play seems to be on another level. And I was kind of digging into what his numbers are. And like as of like last weekend, he's shooting, I think, 70.7% of his shots, making, excuse me, 70.7% of his shots in the clutch, which according to CBS Sports is defined as any possession inside the final 5 minutes when the score is within 5 points. In addition to that, he's shooting 57% from three. That was as of a week ago. And seeing an article on Yahoo Sports, I think those numbers might be up to like 80 plus percent of his for his shooting percentage. So Ant is on another level because his numbers I think were like 39 and 40 in prior seasons. So he's on pace. He's on his own island right now in terms of clutch play in the league. So he's getting it done in the clutch. I know we're doing a midseason previews or review, so I don't want to get too negative, but there are some habits though that I feel like are still not quite there. While his decision making on offense seems to be there, um, you know, just going to touch on it here, Mike. Sorry,
Oh, that's good.
last night fell asleep probably five, six times on defense and got backdoor cutted. So there's still some things there that I see that bother me a little bit, where he doesn't seem to take opponents as seriously as he should, but talk about a huge step in terms of his clutch play. Mike, what say you?
No doubt, no doubt. Good to see. And like I said, we talked about it seasons prior, and the numbers weren't there, and now it's just ridiculous. Even last night, as they were trying to climb back in that game, I mean, he tried to will them to win, was popping threes left and right, but nonetheless, like I said, we don't want to talk too much about the last week because it has been a little bit painful. Brett, great to see you, brother. It's been a minute.
Always good to be
So
back.
we've talked about Finch's rotation over the years, his reluctance to play young players. Now, recently he decided to insert our rookie first round pick, Yohan Bernier. I think I pronounced it right. Everybody pronounces it a little bit differently.
El Gasolino.
Yes, Senior
You know,
Smoke. It's very similar to the 80s reliever of the 87 Minnesota Twins, but I digress. Talk a little bit about his addition to the rotation, not to mention how he had meaningful minutes against both Giannis and Wemby and seemed to thrive.
yeah, it does a lot for us, honestly. All of us armchair GMs analyzing the first half of the season, we're looking at, this. We have a quality ball squad, but what are we missing? Are we missing a point guard? Are we missing a backup big? One of the banes of our season has been those Julius plus Nas minutes when Rudy sits and the defense starts to lag a little bit. And being able to find our answer within, I think, takes a little bit of pressure off of Tim Connolly. It's unfortunate that it took an injury once again for Chris Finch to have to tap into that. But I mean, I know that in previous conversations, we all said, man, like if only we had a young, big, athletic freak with a 9 foot wingspan somewhere on the bench that we could try out in these non-Rudy minutes. And Finchie's hand was forced and put the kid on the court. And like you said, Mike, he was in there with a gauntlet against Giannis, Wemby. Um, I wished he would have gotten a little more run last night, but it's encouraging to at least see him get some burn here. To me, I think like we could probably take a backup big out of the equation as we're doing our shopping at the deadline here. I think right now, if we were to stand pat, which I have absolutely no instinct to say that we're going to stand pat with our roster as it is after February. I think a minor tweak that we'll discuss down the line here, but um, honestly, like with the roster as it is, I think the easy answer is just simply the starting five as it is. Uh, Senior Smoke as the backup big, Nas as the backup three, Bones as the backup point guard, and then whenever he's healthy, Terrence can be the number 9 man coming in as your backup wing swing man. But it makes life a little bit easier for Tim Connolly. We can maybe focus those resources at the trade deadline elsewhere. Maybe it's a point guard. Maybe it's just another wing, another scorer, something off of the bench. But I think that need for a backup big looks a lot less pressing than it did prior to Finch's hand being forced and getting Yohan on the court. And man, I'm so glad that we have gotten to get a look at him. He's gotten some burn, he's got some experience, some confidence. And like I said in October, the kid's still growing into his body. Ton of athleticism there. So really inspiring to see. I'm all on board the Yohan Berenger Express right now. So, I mean, I could go on all day about it, but I won't.
All right,
won't take up too much more
and
time
yeah,
here.
no, I mean he doesn't look like the moment's too big for him as of what we've seen in the last week or so, which is great. Another name you mentioned though, TJ Shannon. I think we all had high expectations of him coming off of his playoff,
That
performance against OKC in particular last year. And I know he's been injured, but it's just like I think to me that would be not necessarily the biggest disappointment to the first half of the season, but I think we all expected him to be a contributing member, and he hasn't been up to this point.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Mr. Steve, what wins championships?
Defense.
All right, and I'll tell you what, if you've seen some of our texts to each other, which can get a little dicey at times, I would say the first quarter of the season, that Timberwolves defense was pretty much non-existent. It seems like they've corrected it. Ironically, as much as we complain, up until these last 3 games, they were talking about the Timberwolves had the best record since Thanksgiving of any NBA team, and then I think they started out 6-1 to start the new year. Talk about the defense, and it seems it's improved over the last, I would say, 15 games, and what that means, and what you've seen that has changed from the beginning of the season.
Yeah, our defense. So last year we finished out fourth best defense according to NBA.com, giving up 109 points a game per StatMuse. This year, beginning of the season, we were 27th best defense in the NBA. We went as high as fourth when we had that nice stretch after Thanksgiving there. We were really doing well. We dropped back to 12th. We're giving up 115 points a game. So we're up 6 points a game that, since last year. So enough of the numbers, but I think the big thing is just the effort, right? We've got talented defensive players. You've got Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels. You've got some guys that can really do well. Clark. We haven't hardly talked about Jalen Clark. That guy still is really good on defense. So you've got some guys. I mean, we just talked about Berenger. I mean, that guy is good on defense. Like that's one of his calling cards. He can swat shots from anywhere. Um, but I think one of the biggest problems is just the effort, the attitude. Defense is about effort. It's about heart. It's about want to. It's about digging down and not just coasting. So then you can go and ISO up and shoot your shot on the offensive side of the ball. So I think it's a bit of an attitude problem, and I think it's a bit of the matchups that we have out there, and making sure that we are willing to maybe dig a little deeper on the bench and pull out somebody like a Bones who wants to get action and wants to get moving. He's a long, athletic guy. I think he should be out there more often. He's shown promise this year, and I think he helps when he's out there. But our defense, we we have to get that mindset back like we had 2 seasons ago where we're gonna, you can come into our house, but you ain't scoring over 100 points, right? Like, and it seems like that they don't even care about that anymore. Like it's not even a thing. It's not, they don't want to hang their hat on that. One of the reasons why OKC is who OKC is because of their defense, right? Their defense is elite. And there's put the, refs whistle stuff away. We can talk about that another time, but they're the number one defensive team and they're the number one team in the NBA.
No
You
doubt.
win.
Hey, quick question for the panel. Who misses Nah?
I miss Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for
happy
sure.
to see him have success in a kind of a bit of an awkward situation in Atlanta. I was kind of surprised at what little they got for Trey Young,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think especially Steve, to your point, from a defensive standpoint, we miss his presence this year, and it's good to see him um, with the offensive output and what he's doing in Atlanta because we all saw that over the last few years and knew that he would probably thrive out there. Coaching, which is always a hot topic amongst the man cave sports personalities. Some people get a little more fiery than others about it, but obviously, Mr. Finchy, Chris Finch, Mr. Finchy, as everybody affectionately calls him, is a lightning rod for this group. Be naughty. Talk about Mr. Finch's performance through the first half. We've talked about, I will say this, it seems every year he makes adjustments that he might not have the year prior. So we see some evolution in his coaching. Talk about his performance through the first half of the season.
Well, I knew that I was going to get this question. I mean, I'm on an island. I used to have an ally. His name was Razor Ramon, but he's kind of drifting away. He's in the lifeboat, going away. You know, I'm still a Finchy guy. But there are some certain things like last night. He's a player's coach. I mean, he's consistent, accountability. He leaves his guys out there. He doesn't play the young guys, like Mr. Steve always says. Um, we lose like 10 boner games a year against bum competition over him just letting them play. The timeout thing is questionable at times. But my coach has been in the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row, and you armchair GMs and coaches just sit back and watch them do it again.
I do gotta say that's about as close as I've seen you to joining the dark side as I
No,
ever have. So it very interesting to say the least. I will say
no.
one thing I will give Finch credit for his timely, um, his ability to lose his shit at the right time
Oh yeah, that
OKC
OKC
because
thing.
OKC has
OKC
been a
was like they lost one game, and when he lost his shit, he planned on losing his shit on that shy.
I would say we could
This is
at the very
this has
least
got to stop.
we might not agree on his ability to coach the Timberwolves, but he is right now he is the ambassador of ethical basketball in the NBA based upon him losing his shit in that OKC game. So the whole NBA owes Chris Finch gratitude.
And all you guys
Yes.
owe it too.
Whoa.
Okay. Well, we're talking about something a little different from just Timberwolves or just specifically Timberwolves, but yes, the NBA, everybody outside of OKC owes Chris Finch some gratitude for what he was able to accomplish in that game. All right, enough with the coaching. Point guard. We talked a little bit about it. We talk about it in our texts. I think you guys were talking about before we went live on this. Talk about the point guard position because it's been a combination mostly this year of Dante and Ant. You've got Conley coming off the bench, but it seems to be the one area where most Timberwolves fans will say we have a need. Razor, talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Well, first off, be naughty. I have not fully abandoned you on the
You
Finchy boat.
have.
I'm still on board. I'm just starting to wonder if I should jump ship. I'm still with you.
You're floating away.
A little bit, but in regards to the point guard position, I'm not going to focus so much on the starting lineup because we talked about Ant, and right now he's essentially the point guard. Dante helps bring it up too. Julius Randle does. Even Jaden McDaniels does. I want to talk more about the backup point guard spot, and it hasn't been very pretty. As we all know, Mike Conley has taken a major, major step back. He took a step back last year, but it's gotten even worse this year. He is getting wide open looks, and he's only hitting about 33% of his threes, and they're wide open all night long, and he's not hitting them. The floater, it's not even close anymore. We already saw that kind of fall off last year, and so he's basically not really a threat anymore. He's a steady hand, but you know, if they want to go far, he really can't play rotational minutes deep in the playoffs. You just can't. And Rob Dillingham, I think I was saying, I don't know if we had a podcast. I haven't been on the podcast in a while, but I was saying about a month ago that I thought I saw something, and I take that all back because I don't anymore. I won't even get into his numbers. That I think it was the Milwaukee Bucks game when it was an absolute blowout for the Wolves. And then he tried to take that layup at the buzzer, and the announcer was like, no, 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 don't take it. And he blew a wide open layup. That pretty much just sums up where he is as a player. Just I don't think he has any confidence, and I just I'd be surprised if he's still on the team by the end of the season. The Bones Highland experiment or experience, it's been fun.
It's an experience.
It is a
Period.
good time. It's a good time. That
You guys
said,
doubted me.
what's that?
You guys doubted me.
Yeah, no,
What do you
I
mean?
think it's been fun, and I love that he's on the team, but he too, I have trouble seeing him playing at a high level as like an eighth man or a ninth man on in a playoff rotation. So I think the Wolves got to do something. I don't think there's any doubt that they must make a move if they really want to be taken seriously or if they want to be a serious contender. I think Brett touched on the backup big situation with Yohan Bernier, and it's looking pretty damn good. So they got to do something at the point guard position, or the backup point guard position, because I just don't. They need some size back there. They need some consistency. And again, Bones Highland experience has been fun, but defensively, I don't think he can get it done
Yeah,
in the rotation in a
and,
deep
and
playoff
and
run.
and Naughton doubted you. I mean, have you watched him from game to game? It's not the same from one night to the next. There's one game where he looks brilliant, is hitting his threes, and the next game he looks like, let's be honest, he looks like Rob Dillingham.
Oh, come on.
So So yes, there's been times this season where I thought Bones might be the solution, but now I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if he's the solution or the problem, and I'm starting to lean more towards the problem. But anyways, moving right along. Brett, trade deadline's coming up here in a couple of weeks. We've seen some movement. Obviously, Ja Morant seems to be on the block. Uh, Trey Young has already been traded. Our old buddy Cat, it was announced this week, seems to be out there for the taking.
Bring
And
him home.
I would have to say at this juncture, a year and a half later, or near a year and a half later, it's kind of looking like we might have won that trade with the Knicks. But
We might have.
yeah. I'm just it's to be determined. It's still out there.
TBD.
But
You
uh,
need to be.
nonetheless, uh, Brett, what do you think? Are the Wolves going to be players at the trade deadline? And we've talked about probably the need for a point guard, perhaps. I think that's the one area all Wolves fans are looking at. But talk about what you think they might do before the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely they're going to be buyers at the deadline, and we start from the journey that we've been on this season. So we'll strike off the areas that we've been able to check the boxes on. Obviously, a backup big, we can rule that out. It would have been a real bummer to expand resources on trading for a backup big, 6 months removed from using 2 draft picks on centers.
Yeah.
Right. Can you imagine like what a disaster that would be for Tim Connolly to draft 2 centers and then still have to trade for a backup big at the deadline? So we can rule that out, I think, with Berencher, as I discussed it previously. So then we'll go down the line here. I think, maybe 2-3 months ago, Maybe as late as November, we might have been thinking Ja Morant, Trey Young. You can rule Trey Young out, absolutely. Ja Morant, I think we can all but rule out. At that time, if you would have asked me, what should the Wolves do? I would have said, yeah, let's not swing for the fences with Ja Morant. Let's do something a little more reeled in with like a Kobe White. Now in February, January, end of January, February, I might be leaning more towards like, well, I don't know if we should swing toward the fences with Kobe White. Maybe it should be a Trey Jones type of a player, something a little bit cheaper. You could probably make either of those scenarios happen with Rob Dillingham. So pros and cons on each of those. If you were to trade Rob plus a filler, call it Leonard Miller, whoever, for Kobe White, are you so in love with Kobe White that you're comfortable trading Rob Dillingham a year and a half removed from being a number one pick for Kobe, who would essentially be a rental because he is an expiring contract?
Okay.
Now, you can commit to Kobe long term, but that probably means that you're saying goodbye to a Dante DiVincenzo. That's really the only candidate salary wise that has some value to other squads with that contract. Another big win from that cat trade is the value in that contract, as we discussed when it happened. So that's a very movable piece if you're so in love with Kobe this summer. If you were to hypothetically bring somebody like him in, you could pair him in because he's only getting, I think, 8 million this year. So you can afford him this year. You can afford him and Dante DiVincenzo if you're able to get somewhere around the 8-9 million mark with Rob Dillingham, who I think is getting 6 million, and then Leonard Miller at like 2. You can make it happen, but then you have to choose this summer.
Yep.
You know, are we extending Kobe? Are we comfortable with just Kobe being a rental and that rental costing us first round pick Rob Dillingham? Or are we committing to Kobe long term and saying goodbye to Dante and seeing if we can maybe squeeze some value out of that contract? I don't. We're in a decent place. I think ruling out the backup big thing is huge for us. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Kobe White deal go down, but I also wouldn't be shocked to see them go smaller fish with a Trey Jones, another just kind of a steady hand, and then maybe your point guard room come playoff time looks like Bones plus Trey Jones, and then the Ant Man point Ant DiVincenzo combo up front in the starting lineup. So we're in a decent place. We have some options. I don't think we need to sell out. I don't think we need to blow up our rotation too heavily for a piece, but we do need to make a move. I think last night, I know we're not, touching too heavily on the last week, but a move does need to be made. We do need another presence. The bench is super thin beyond Nas. So a little bit of shopping here. I don't know that we need to swing for the fences, but something does need to be done. We need a little tweak here. So we'll see what happens.
Solid takes as always, Brett. Steve, one thing that really doesn't relate to the plane, but something we're all excited about is the return of KG. We talked about it in the preseason show, but has been confirmed, I believe, since we last gathered together, that they will be hanging his jersey in the rafters, that he is going to be a part of the organization. Now, in what capacity has yet to be determined. I saw him and Paul Pierce, their I think I forget the name of their podcast, but he talked about it in the last week, just about how anxious he is to return to the community and anxious to see what his role with the organization will be. But talk a little bit about KG. I know they haven't determined the date, but his return to the organization and just his presence with that team that has been to the Western Conference Finals the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, this last week, his podcast comments and stuff, is he trying to just play coy, like he knows more about what he's going to be doing and he's not sharing? Or, he's talked about, he wants to get his hands on the bigs and start working with them and being able to do stuff, but it doesn't sound like that's in the cards yet. It seems like they kind of have to, from what he was saying, I can't repeat exactly what he was saying, but they got to kind of him and Lori and A-Rod, they got to kind of feel each other out and see how they want to work together and stuff. And so they haven't really determined what this is going to look like. So they're just a amalgamous kind of amoeba of KG. Like we don't really know what that's going to look like yet. And I don't think it doesn't sound like he really has, or at least he's not sharing what it's going to be. And we still don't know what the date of the retirement is. It'd be cool if that could be something like, during the playoffs or something. Maybe we make it back to the Western Conference Finals on the brilliance of Chris Finch's rotational skills and timeout calling abilities. We'll get back to the Western Conference Finals, and then we'll have a KG night to do a big fanfare or something. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's big. I think it's important. We've talked about it before. KG is such an icon here. Like Paul Pierce said, when they building your statue, well, they probably should have a statue for KG,
Absolutely.
because he really did put Timberwolves basketball on the map. We were just kind of a long-suffering expansion team before he got here. Almost a decade of what 7, 8 years of blah, and then he gets here, and now it's exciting. Now it's interesting, and he did get us to our first Western Conference Finals. Absent Chris Finch, I'm not sure how he pulled that off though, because the brilliance obviously needed to be there in order to help him do it. But KG, much missed, much respected, and very happy to see him returning to the fold.
Yeah, and I know you can't repeat what he said because I love some Effenheimers, but man, KG can swear.
Like you literally have to have blue light filtering glasses on just to listen to the podcast, let alone watch it.
Yeah. All right. Be naughty. We're going to close this mid-season recap with you. We talked a little bit about playoff positioning at the beginning. I think we all said this going into the season, 1 through 6. What's the difference? Because when you think about the teams that are sitting in these positions, outside of the Spurs, most of these teams have been in the playoffs the last few years. So I don't think the home field or the home court, excuse me, I was getting a call there that I had to mute out, makes as much of a difference. The Wolves were able to make the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years as the 6 and the 3. So talk a little bit about that. I think outside of making sure you're not in the play-in, is it that important if they finish anywhere from 2 to 6?
I think it's important it's like games. If you look at the Western Conference standings right now, it's just like half game here, half game there, from 8 to 2. Even the Spurs. I'm not worried about it. You know why I'm not worried about it? Because my coach has brought me to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row and let my guy cook. And with that, I'm out.
All right. We'll let you two continue your that whole thing in the group chat.
Short but sweet.
Looking forward to it, but
Yeah.
appreciate this group getting back together. Missed all you guys, and hey, another exciting Wolves season to talk about, and we'll continue to do that throughout the season. Get this group back together, hopefully as soon as next week. I'll be in touch with you guys, but appreciate everybody watching. Wolves back and Man Cave out. Thank you, gentlemen.